It's on page 2. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Nikaya, 3 refuges. Buddham saranam gacchami. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. remembrances. I am of the nature to grow old.
There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. This precious human life, rarely encountered, is easily lost. Now that I have life and opportunity, may I practice the Dharma wholeheartedly.
Mahayana refuge. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha.
May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way.
Invocation of the lineage. I give thanks for the guidance of my teachers.
For the lineage of teachers before them, I give thanks and offerings for their devoted practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom, skillful means, unshakable vow, spiritual powers, and weighted awareness for my benefit. May their years of life be lengthened, and may their vows be completely realized, and may I cultivate these perfections with their guidance.
7 practices of the Bodhisattva. I bow down in body, speech, and mind.
I offer the best I have to give, both real and imagined, to fill the space between us. I regret and purify all transgressions. I rejoice in all virtues. I request you to remain until total enlightenment. I request wise and compassionate guidance. I dedicate my merit to the sake of all beings.
Generating love and compassion. May all sentient beings be free from clinging and hatred.
Being close to some and distant from others, how wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from clinging and hatred. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them happiness and the causes of happiness. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from suffering and the causes of suffering. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings have the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from clinging, hatred, jealousy, miserliness, doubt, pride, wrong view, ignorance, and dualistic thoughts. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them to this state. Bless me to accomplish this.
Please stand for the Heart Sutra on page 4 of the liturgy book. Great Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, practicing deep Prajna Paramita, clearly saw that all five skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form, sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are essentially empty, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without loss, without gain. Therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no seeing, and so on, to no thinking, no ignorance, and also no ending of ignorance, and so
age and death, no suffering, cause of suffering, cessation, path, no wisdom, and no attainment, since there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva lives by Prajnaparamita, with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, and therefore no fear. Far beyond delusive thinking, right here is nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future live by Prajnaparamita, attaining Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that Prajnaparamita is the great sacred mantra, the great vivid mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not mere formality. Therefore set forth the Prajnaparamita mantra, set forth this mantra and proclaim Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Parsam, Gate, Bodhisvaha, Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Parsam, Gate, Bodhisvaha, Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Parsam, Gate, Bodhisvaha.
Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. All that is and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We offer this sincere, devoted practice for the many beings of the 6 worlds, and dedicated and grateful thanks to the strength and sound practice of the Great Heartland Sangha and its teachers. May our virtuous actions be clear from all interferences, and may our vows be fully realized. We especially dedicate these merits to all those suffering from cruelty, calamity, injustice, and war, to Dorothy, Soan, JJ, Jasmine, Sharon, Roger, Leslie, Art, Vicky, Joe, Soke, and Debbie. May they have peace and healing. To Kayla, Allison, Cindy, Lynn, and Tracy at the time of their death, and to those whose names we hold in the silence of our hearts, as well as those whose names we now voice aloud. May we live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma, and may we realize the Buddha way together. Children and Dharma school teachers can go back to their classroom, and everyone else please prepare for zazen. will now recite the Sangha Covenant, found on page 8. We,
Rensin Roshi Sangha, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the wisdom and compassion we seek to cultivate by practice, and with deep gratitude for the teachers of this lineage and our connection to one another, covenant to support each other by upholding the precepts, doing no harm, practicing good, and actualizing good for others.
please be seated for today's talk. Please sit comfortably so that you can face the teacher and make eye contact. Gata on opening the sutra.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. Did anybody here, when you were a kid, did you used to make forts in the couch with sheets and stuff like that? Can I see? It feels like that. You got to like set all the sheets just right and make sure that there's enough air to breathe and that it feels cozy. It's but hey, tradition, right? So be it. A little Dharma for it. There you go. So, yeah, it occurred to me to say that what's happening on these Sundays, where we're looking together at the Lankavatara Sutra, which we'll continue with today, this is formally called a Dharma discourse. And that's when a fully transmitted teacher is, discoursing on a sutra, right? And that is a different kind of a talk from what's called a teisho, right? And the teisho is when a fully transmitted teacher is giving a talk on a koan. And a koan is called so because it is a public case, meaning it applies to everyone equally, and it's a direct pointing to nature, our human nature, true nature, but it's an expression of some ancestral lineage encounter with this true nature. It's typically an exchange between a student and a teacher, or a couple of advanced masters, or something like this. And it's kind of like in jazz, if you want to learn to play with the correct vocabulary, you have to learn to take on some of the language of the predecessors. So people study Charlie Parker, for example, and how he navigated certain chord phrases. Those become part of your language, and you are recognizably speaking jazz in that case. The genre doesn't matter. I mean, if you seek to play heavy metal music, you have to know how to play Paranoid. It's a standard, right, from Black Sabbath. If you don't know that Tony Iommi material, you don't know how to speak heavy metal. It's the same for bluegrass music or Mozart or Bachian stuff. It doesn't matter. And it's like that in the lineage as well. That's what koans are. Koans are standards now. Okay, they're dharmically charged encounters. And you do well to encounter them yourself, because after all, it's your turn. Charlie Parker had his turn, now it's yours, right? The masters of the great enlightened era in China had their turn, now it's ours. So, not that we need to enshrine someone else's experience, certainly that won't help you. The goal isn't to sound just like Charlie Parker, hopefully, because that was Charlie's job. What do you sound like? What is your awakening in your life, in your world? And we should understand something of the lineage and the language. Now, a Dharma discourse, as I mentioned, is a little different from a teisho, which is presenting the shout or presenting reality directly. A Dharma discourse, such as what's going to happen now, is more of an attempt to try to explain the unexplainable. A teisho, just to be clear, there's no attempt to explain anything. At least there ought not be. It's more a pure presentation. These, by the way, typically happen on Wednesday nights, also open to the public. You're welcome to come and check those out. And if you listen to the Buddhist Temple of Toledo podcast, you'll notice that if there's a koan involved, there's a little different tenor and flavor to the thing than if, well, I don't know, I'm trying to talk about a sutra. So anyway, all that in place, let's discourse a bit on the Dharma together, shall we? We're looking for this entire Ango period at the Lankavatara Sutra. For those to whom this is new, a sutra simply is by fact or by agreed upon consensus, the words of the Buddha. And there are many, many sutras. Pali tradition sutta or Sanskrit tradition sutra, and all are venerable and worthy, and you kind of have to pick your flavor, and Zen really is one of the kind of Mahayana Buddhist forms, a very important one, obviously here, certainly not the only one, but it does tend to lean into the Lankavatara Sutra, which is sort of the beginning of a genre called Prajnaparamita literature. So that prajna means wisdom, and paramita means perfection. So the perfection of wisdom literature, it's a pretty good title, sounds good. But that really is what it is, see. And whether it's Tibetan Buddhism, which we have some share in here, or it's the Chan and Zen lineages, which is our sort of main case, this prajna paramita, this wisdom that sees into the true nature directly, is the gig. That is the thing. That's the thing. The thing is seeing into your own inherent, perfect nature, realizing that, actualizing that, and living out of it in a world that truly needs it. Now, within that, the Lankavatara Sutra does a very clear, well, it does nothing clear. It clearly is an attempt to to explain some stuff, okay? And you can take a look at the experiences of deep yogic practitioners. Yoga means practicing, in this case, folks who actually do the thing, and what the Buddha taught, and you can draw certain logical conclusions from it that do help to give a kind of a cognitive framework, such as the Lankavatara Sutra. I've been holding up this epitomized version from Dwight Goddard. This is readily available. There are different versions of it. The original of this is in the 30s, so it's public domain at this point. You can find it pretty available. This is from the chapter on perfect knowledge. I'll continue with where we left off last time. Then Mahamati said to the Blessed One, "Are the three self-natures of things, ideas, and reality to be considered as included in the five dharmas, or as having their own characteristics, complete in and of themselves?" Let's pause and unpack. Right? The basic scheme, the basic framework of the Lankavatara Sutra is that there are five dharmas. There are three ways of perceiving nature, self-natures. There's what's called an eightfold mind system, and then the twofold egolessness. There. So basically, if you kind of have some sense, and it's actually not that hard to do, you can get this. If you get some sense of what those things are, you're going to have a much easier time kind of uncoding what the sutra is trying to get you to notice. Okay, why bring this to our attention? Well, these five dharmas I talked about extensively, they really, they begin with appearance, meaning that we encounter things, they appear to us in our senses, and then we form names and language around those appearances. So it's a nice day or it's a crappy day, whatever, right? It's raining outside. There it is. We put names on things, you see. And then based on that name and that appearance that's encountered in this name, we start to pick and choose. We start to discriminate. I like nice days. I don't like crappy days. And that's defined by this and that. And I start to arise. There's a me in the center of this equation suddenly that's collecting collectibles, collect nice experiences, try to stay away from unpleasant ones, and etc. All right? Now the fourth dharma is called prajna wisdom, as I mentioned. This is I suppose it's that which perceives true nature, and true nature is suchness. And it's important that this prajna wisdom, this perceiving, this realizing really of true nature, is not inside the ordinary eightfold mind system. The mind system is eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and brain, let's say, like we chanted in the Heart Sutra. You see things, hear things, taste things, touch things, etc. You think things, you perceive thoughts. So all of these organs are perceiving their things, you see. And true nature is not perceivable by any of those. So if you have the idea that you're going to think your way through to perceiving your true nature, the sutra says that's just not going to happen. It can't happen, right? From within that system, there's no way out. There's no way to see the system inside the system. It's like characters in a video game can't realize they're in a video game. There's another kind of consciousness which can, you see. But it's not that kind. Further, that these sense experiences kind of coagulate into a sense of me, a sense of myself as a separate self with my preferences, my identities, and my likes and my dislikes, my triumphs and my traumas. Okay? And that sort of sense of self, you could call Maya, or it's sort of like the ego, soul, mind, or the ego sense, or the I am feeling you have. The one who's perceiving the thoughts or thinking the thoughts, or really the governor of the machine, that sort of sense of yourself that we all kind of innately, hopefully, we arrive to in a healthy way. But that's not it either. There's something beyond that too, which is called the storehouse consciousness. And this is sort of like a collective karmic repository. You could say it's like the unconscious. And this collective repository called universal mind or alaya consciousness, this is sort of where karmic seeds get placed and are stored, you see. And this universal mind storehouse consciousness, or whatever the heck it is, this sort of like field of karmic deposits is influencing very deeply who you think you are and how you see things. How you see yourself, how you see the world, has a lot to do with the karmic seeds that are ripening and throwing off experiences your way. And those, of course, generate further seeds that do the same thing, you see. And so you could say in modern psychological terms, the unconscious, or I prefer the universal mind myself, you're not consciously aware of it, but things are in there percolating around, and when they ripen, they show up in a way that we perceive, you see. And that has a direct causal relationship to how we pick and choose what we think we like. Like, why do I associate sitting up in this chair right now with being 5 and making a fort in my mom and dad's living room back on Drummond Road in the 70s? It's a karmic seed. There was some time back in my decades ago life where little Jay was making a fort, and it was fun. But it was a little hard to breathe, and I got a little scared. So I wanted to make sure I could get fresh air. The little 5-year-old me, you know what I'm saying? And so open up, fresh air, oh, that feels better. And so, 5 decades later, an older Jay stumbles up upon this, whatever this thing is, this high seat, and starts feeling the wrapping of all the things, and has a connection to that 5 decades ago little experience of being a little bit scared there's not enough air. Do you see? This is a karmic seed ripened, you see. That 5-year-old little Jay, feeling there's not quite enough air in the fort, made a karmic seed. And then now this is ripened to this moment. I had no idea of it in between these 5 decades. And yet now here it is, part of a Dharma discourse. Isn't that weird? And yet it's not weird. We do that stuff all day long, right? You do that your whole life long. Yes, you do. There's everything you've seen, heard, felt, tasted, touched, experienced, imagined, read, watched. Yeah, kind of heavy. It's really amazing, actually. And isn't it weird how all of a sudden from this field arises, and then that becomes a cause to another thing, and the vast majority of it goes completely unnoticed because we are in the churn of picking and choosing, of running to and away from. And all of this running to and away from reifies the sense of me as the hero or the victim or the whatever. The one in the center or the one who's ignored, whatever it is. Depends on the moment, right? And so the Buddha teaches very clearly, dear one, settle down. Like actually settle down and be still and pay attention. Pay deep attention to what? Firstly, to your body. That's the first thing. You got to get out of just being in your head and out of the kind of hailstorm of these karmic seeds blowing you all over the place, backward and forward and up and down, pushing and pulling. And actually settle in to what? Well, basically, your body has two main systems. One is the lower dantian, which is this, we call them hara, or your center, okay? And that dantian is a very important feature. When you begin to do your zazen practice, the first thing you ought to be taught and told is put your mind in the one point and concentrate in your breathing in the hara. And you develop that hara. This is not unrelated to what's going on in the sutra. If you scan the Lankavatara Sutra, you won't find the word hara in there anywhere. But how do you approach this business of getting the mind system to settle down? Put your mind, put your awareness, your consciousness inside your own body, in your hara. And this is intimately connected with breathing. So if you're just breathing up here all the time, and you're kind of up here like this all the time, it's all up here, you see it? And like everything down here is getting shut off, and that's not good. It's really not good. So what you need to do is put your mind low into your hara and breathe. Did you know when you're sitting in meditation, when you breathe in, the first thing that should happen is your back goes. Your low back pushes out. And it should be that your tailbone and your sort of mid-back kind of separate from each other just a little bit. Like if you had your hand back in the fort here on my back, first thing when I breathe in, that back goes out a little bit in a good way, right? And then what happens? It goes out the sides. And then lastly, the front. You see that? And there's a floor underneath and there's a cap up top. This isn't just escapism, guys. This is training. Like you really need to train your breath and your mind to inhabit your hara. You see, when you do that, when you breathe down here, your nervous system starts to change. If you're just breathing up here and thinking up here, your nervous system is different again. Zen is not a concept. Zen is a physical experience. It's not like a set of cool aphorisms. It's a thing that you do, you experience, and you manifest it. That's why eventually all the books fail you if you don't know how to read them right. If you take them as mental concepts that will give you a 10% happier day, that's too bad. What a cheap substitute for your true, inherent, perfect nature expressing. Wow. Don't be satisfied with that. But it's not just that. The hara is there, and then the next thing you've got going, the second main system, is your spine. Okay? You imagine your hara in your body, it's like your root system. Like if you took the roots of a beautiful tree and you balled them up and put them in here, that's your hara. That's you. Now what has to happen is that energy has to go up the spine. That's why when you sit in Zazen, you don't really want to be sitting like this. It's not a everybody bow your head and be penitent kind of thing. It's completely not like that. It's also not military pose and be arrogant. That's not going to catch it either. Not just because it's funny, but because your spine isn't aligned correctly. So your hara, you breathe down there and you breathe like this, all of your internal organs get moved the way they're supposed to. There's room for your internal organs to be internal organs. That means you can think. If your organs are constricted, your brain is constricted. if you open up and give space for your spleen to go ahead and have a nice spleenful day, and your liver can liver right along, and all the things are doing all the things, then your thinking can become clear, okay? These things relate. And in between is your spine. And that's why when you sit, it's very, very important that you pay attention to your posture. You see, you sit, and you breathe here, and then that energy very naturally starts to come up the spine correctly. Now, if you're muscling yourself to sit there, it's not going to happen. If you're collapsed when you're sitting there, it's not going to happen. You have to find what it is in your body, the way your body actually is, that your lower occipitals lift a little bit, your tailbone comes down a little bit, your back comes back a little bit, and everything can actually function when you're sitting. There's a lot going on, huh? Now, really, if you spend time getting your body connected to itself and getting your mind and your heart connected to your body, you will then be in a prepared place. Your nervous system will be correctly prepped to be able to have and maintain the experience of true self. It's an immensely physical thing. And that's why believing in Zen will not help you at all. It will do you no good to believe in Zen. I don't believe in Zen at all. I don't believe in jazz either. I play it. And if you hate jazz, don't hold that against me. But I don't believe in Zen either. I realize it and practice it and manifest it. And there's some thoughts about it that actually are helpful. So, Blessed One, are the three self-natures of things, ideas, and reality to be considered as included in the five dharmas or as having their own characteristics? And the five dharmas, again, appearance, name, discrimination, and that's all head stuff, sense stuff. And then prajna wisdom, which is right view, which realizes, the sutra calls it suchness in English. This is Buddha nature. That's your true self, the Tathagata Garbha. Now these three, the questioner is saying the three self-natures, so let's talk about that a little bit. The three self-natures, you have to keep in mind that these are three different ways of seeing things, okay? Imagined, dependent, and perfected. Although really, dependent is first in the sutra. So, other dependent nature. When you're in this frame of mind, you can see that things are built interdependently. They arise interdependently. So like, you know, the cup here is dependent upon all the causes and conditions that gave rise to it. The materials, the processes, the people who did the work, the truck that brought it to wherever it was purchased from, and etc. It doesn't exist of its own. It exists because of all the causes and conditions that gave rise to it. You see? And so this is the self-nature of other dependent things. And there's another one which is called conceptual nature. This is ideas. This is very important in the teaching of the Buddha, that the Buddha takes objects of mind as the same kind of quality as objects of sense perception. So I can touch the cup and feel that it's cool and smooth, and that's a sense experience. If I tink on it, I can hear it, okay? So at this massively fast rate, I have the sensation of touching it, and I have the sensation of hearing it, and I have a sense of the coolness of the thing, you know, and it all kind of stacks up as an experience. And because we don't critically examine this, we have this kind of assumption in it that I'm touching the cup and hearing it, and that I'm here and the cup's there. And obviously that's, in a way, very true. But when you see the interdependent nature of things, it's very different than if you just see it as a thing. After all, someday this cup will break. Guaranteed. Let's just be extremely clear. 1,000,000 years from now, this cup will not be in this form. None of the particles or molecules or atoms that are so assembled at this time will then be assembled thusly. Do you agree? And also, let's say 1,000,000 years ago, all the atoms and molecules built on this, that this thing expresses now, were somewhere else. Didn't look like this. And if I can really take that in and really see that, two things happen. One, I see the preciousness and miraculousness of it. Because, oh my gosh, it's actually here. Like, that's insane. What are the odds? In the entire cosmos, with supernova and stars and God knows what all, a cup has arisen. What are the odds? It's staggering. And so this is kind of precious. In fact, it's really precious. And like, so are you. It's amazing. You're amazing. This is beautiful. You're beautiful. You are. You really are. What is it to be able to taste? Is that amazing? Have you ever noticed? Without pharmaceutical intervention. Just because you're tuning in to your actual experience, it's amazing. The other thing that happens is I understand the preciousness of this because I see the impermanence of it, and so when it changes, I'm not surprised. I may be sad, I may feel that, gosh, I missed the cup, that was cool, but now it's in a different form. And that's how reality actually is. So look in the mirror. You do not look the way you looked 10 years ago. True? None of us is getting younger by the day. How do you relate to that? How do you see it? How do you see yourself? How do you relate to yourself? Like, really. Not just, when everybody's watching. How do you really relate to your life? How do you live that life? There's this term I hear sometimes called imposter syndrome. You heard that? Where you kind of feel like you're always not quite really yourself. I think you should have more of that. Pay attention to your gut. If your gut is saying, there's something that I'm not seeing here, you're probably right. So tune into it. It's a beautiful sound. What would it be like if you could actually appreciate the miraculous occurrence that is you and not cling to it in some unwholesome way? Can that be done? Yes, it can be done. You can completely acknowledge the amazing miraculousness, the preciousness of this human life, and be completely unattached and not clinging to it in an unwholesome way. I care for my body. I just spent a bunch of this Dharma discourse telling you how to take care of your body, to give you some guidelines. It's not like I don't care, I don't cling to my body, so whatever, who cares? No. Not acceptable. Not good enough. Not acceptable. But to be clinging to it, as though it's supposed to stay like 30 forever, and it doesn't. Do you see? Then Mahamatni said to the Blessed One, are the three self-natures of things, ideas, and reality to be considered as included in the five dharmas, or as having their own characteristics in and of themselves? The third one, by the way, is fully accomplished nature, which is seeing into your true self. I'll read the answer real quick. The Blessed One replied, the three self-natures, the eightfold mind system, and the twofold egolessnesses are all included in the five dharmas. The self-natures of things, ideas, and of the sixfold mind system correspond with the dharmas of appearance, name, and discrimination. The self-nature of universal mind, storehouse consciousness mind, and reality corresponds to the dharmas of right knowledge and suchness. By becoming unwholesomely clinging and attached to what is seen of the mind itself, there is an activity awakened which is perpetuated by habit energy that becomes manifest in the mind system. From the activities of the mind system, there rises the notion of an ego soul and its belongings. The discriminations, attachments, and notions of a separate self rising simultaneously like the sun and the rays of light that emanate from it. How do you get you some? How do you get connected to this non-dual Dharma? How do you realize for yourself? You can do that. That's exactly what we do. That's what we do. That's what we do here. Step one, learn to settle down. Learn to be still. Get your body and your feelings and your mind connected to yourself, connected to itself. Breathe from your hara. Let your spine be straight. Be still. Pay attention. If you learn to concentrate very, very deeply and trust your body, you'll find that the karmic habit energy that holds that grip on the mind system begins to have less and less sway. You're able to see, wait a minute, this is a light show. And when you can see that for yourself, you can wield it any way you want. What a bodhisattva does is wield it for the alleviation of suffering for all beings. So, for all beings throughout space and time, may we realize our true selves and give it away. May it be so.
We'll conclude by singing the Bodhisattva vows.
I
Ah, I like that sound. Not that one.
Thank you, everybody, for coming this morning. Welcome to visitors, and you can stay. We're going to have a potluck lunch after we hear the meal gong. We do our meal chant, and I think there's some announcements. Sensing the movement.
Registration for Sesshin closes this week for April Sesshin, so please register. And if you are a Shokin student, this is marking 25% of the year is already over, so make sure you get your days in.
So tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. we will be hosting the Multi-Faith Council service of Universal Worship, which is open to the public, so please feel free to come, bring your friends. There'll be the service from 6 to 7 and then light refreshments and social time after. So it would be lovely if we could welcome our visitors. I know they're always very excited to come to the temple, so let's give them a warm welcome.
My name is Seth Cho. I want to thank everybody for your generous donation of dana of food for our potluck today. Thank you so much. As usual, we look for the potluck Sunday of the month to be the day where we give as many of our sentient beings the day off. So if you could volunteer in the kitchen either before you eat or after you eat, it'd be really lovely. I'll be leading restoration today. Saturday, April 6th, which I believe is just next Saturday, is Pastathon! If you've never attended a Pastathon, maybe try this one. It's going to be special. We're actually making ravioli. Ooh, so come on by. We begin, actually, you know, it's a lovely morning. We have sitting from 7 to 8 for dawn practice. We eat breakfast till 8:30. Then we break out the pasta. So come on by at any time. And at noon, there'll be lunch, and we'll be eating ravioli, and there'll be some teachings from the book by Reverend Ed Espy Brown. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Enmei. So we had Dharma school this morning, and in Dharma school we talked about a story that the Buddha told. He was likening awakening to a chick pecking its way out of an egg, and so to represent that, we made a craft with a little chick pecking its way out of the egg, and we said that the shell is ignorance, and that they had to escape from ignorance. Yeah. It's very excellent. Also, I'm the Jukai coordinator, so a reminder to all of our brand new initiates that we are starting prep next week, and it's at 8:30 in the morning. You can be here in person or through a Zoom link. I will send an email describing both things. Thank you.
Please restore the zendo.